Let's see if we can get a good close-up view of Crowley's and Frieda Harris's Virgo card, or the Hermit, from the Thoth Tarot. Let's take a good look at him there. You see very stylized head of the Egyptian god Thoth there, and he's robed up in a kind of a beautiful red robe there, but he's staring at this egg wrapped in a serpent. And this egg has appeared in several places, mostly in the alchemical cards of the Thoth Tarot. This egg sort of goes through an alchemical adventure, and this is one of the stages of that adventure. And the hermit there has a lamp in his hand, which contains the sun. And we see waving weaves or sheaves of corn or wheat there, looking all spermy, and that's exactly what they're supposed to look like here. A lot of people think that this image right there of the homunculus is actually the sperm cell, but actually it's a bit more than that. It's sort of an obsolete, disproven sexual theory from medieval times, where they thought the sperm actually contained a little miniature baby in itself, and sort of relegated the idea of the female's contribution of an egg to be that of just the incubator of this already miniature but fully formed baby. It's called they call it a homunculus, but you can see the baby there. That circle there is the top of its head, and those are the cranial sutures of the head, and the baby is in a fetal position there. But that's what that is. But I digress. And there's Cerberus. Okay, so it's subterranean. It's a very mystical thing. And today, as our good friend Annie Bones has reminded us in a wonderful little essay piece that I posted of hers this morning on my site. It's the first day of Virgo. So we're gonna talk about Virgo, and we're going to talk about the Hermit card, and we're going to talk about how important that card is, especially when we think about it in terms of the mode of fulfillment of the great work. The universe, as the tarot and as Kabbalah attempts to describe it, is a very mysterious thing. And the forces of creation itself are, of course, a very mysterious thing. In modern physics, we've even got this idea of the Big Bang starting the cycle of creation. And then we've got the ideas that eventually that fulfills itself and returns to some other negativity. Just like in the tarot, we've got with the adventure of the zero of the fool that starts it off, and then there's the zero of the universe card, which is the universe, after completely exhausting all of its potentiality and all of the possible possibilities, returns and then to start another cycle again. And we've got this idea of Yod He Vav He that the Hebrew Kabbalists have given us that describes a cycle that goes from like father, son, or father, mother, son, daughter, and we have tried to express it in more detail in 4 separate trees of life, one on top of the other. And the very bottom, number 10 on the tree of life, the very bottom Malkuth, the Malkuth of the Hay final, where does it go? It has to jumpstart itself again, just like modern physicists are saying. Well, there are multiple Big Bangs, okay? Once it gets fulfilled, it Big Bangs again sometimes. So what is the magic of that regeneration? What is that magic that must occur? What are the mechanisms that must be activated in order to jump back to the top from the foundation of the lowest of the low? And that's where we've got this sort of idea here that's wrapped up in the Hermit card. This is that 10 of discs that this is the Thoth deck. And here we see that very bottom tree of life. And we see the Malkuth of that one starting to explode and expand, like the entire sediment of the evolving universe is being blocked there. There's no place to go under that. You would have to go inversely or something like that, but that's another class. It's the bottom of the bottom. This is the bottom tree of life that is manifesting the constipation of all 3 trees of life above it too. This is the sediment of the entire cosmos, the sediment of existence. And it has to perform some magic to jump start itself back to the, in this case, it'd be the Ace of Wands again, and start the whole cycle over again. I'm going to read what Crowley has to say about the Virgo card, first of all, if I can find the page. Of course I can't. Let's see here. Here we go. I have this Mercury talisman that I'm using as a bookmark. A Monday night magic class. The Hermit. I'll hold it up. This card is attributed to the letter Yod, which means a hand. Hence, the hand, which is the tool or instrument par excellence, is in the center of the picture. When you think about it, Yod is the fundamental, I'll get ahead of myself. Yod is the fundamental Hebrew letter. It's just that little, almost a jot, a dot, okay, almost with a little tail. But it's just, all the other Hebrew letters are forms of that one little flame. It's like a little flame, and you kind of blow on it in different ways, and it forms all the other Hebrew letters. Okay, and it means a hand. And when contemplating the Kabbalistic statement that the human soul is made in the image of deity, and the human soul is reflected in the physical plane by the human body. This is why we think, well, God's a big man upstairs with a beard and stuff. Well, the hand of God, the creative hand of God, can at least be meditated upon by contemplating our own hand. And our own hand, in a sense, the human being, the upper primate human being type form of physical stature, separates us from lesser forms of life, or more incomplete forms of life. The hand with 4 digits, Yod He Vav He, that are vivified, more than vivified, they're activated, they're made useful. They help us make fire and weapons and all of the things that lemurs don't do. One hand, 1 digit, 1 thumb is the master of all of these. Yod, He, Vav, He, Sheen, or spirit. The hand separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, I guess, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that's the way it is, but I'm saying that's the way it was perceived by the sages that developed this system. When Charlton Heston said, "Behold his mighty hand," that's exactly what he was talking about, that hand. But I digress. The letter Yod is, okay. The letter Yod is the first name of the Tetragrammaton. Yod, He, Vav, He, Tetragrammaton. And this symbolizes the Father, whose wisdom, he is the highest, okay, who is wisdom. The Father, who is wisdom, okay. Now on a tree of life, that Father, who is wisdom, where Yod first appears, is right there in number 2 on the tree of life, which is called wisdom. And that's what they mean. So we got a Yod, He on number 3, Vav on this area right here, and He final down here on Malkuth. So that's okay. The letter Yod, we're moving right along, aren't we? The letter Yod is the first letter of the name Tetragrammaton, and this symbolizes the Father, who is wisdom. He is the highest form of Mercury. And the Logos. Okay, so that's number 2 is where the Magus, the Logos of the Aeon, who pronounces the word that dictates, that resonates through the entire cosmos, dictating the formula of the current stage of universal consciousness. And Logos, the creator of all worlds. Accordingly, his representative in the physical life is the spermatozoon. Now, I know this may sound sexist and everything else, but this is where Crowley was coming from at this moment, so hold on. Accordingly, his representative in the physical life is the spermatozoon. This is why the card is called the Hermit. The figure of the Hermit himself recalls the shape of the letter Yod. And the color of his cloak is the color of Binah, that would be the king scale, in whom he gestates. In his hand he holds a lamp, whose center is the sun. Now that's going to be very, very important, because Crowley tells us elsewhere that the 3 cosmic players responsible for the mode of fulfillment of the great work, in other words, The three workmen that are responsible for all of this dynamics of perpetuating the cosmos is Earth, Mercury, and the Sun. Earth, Mercury, and the Sun. Forgive me for trying to get a little alchemical here, but I want us to remember that. In his hand he holds a lamp whose center is the sun, portrayed in the likeness of the sigil of the great king of fire. Okay, it's sort of like the Enochian sigil of fire is sort of that symbol. It seems that he is contemplating, in a certain sense, adoring the Orphic egg, green in color. Or greenish in color, because it is conterminous with the universe, while the snake which surrounds it is many-colored to signify the iridescence of Mercury. For he is not only creative, but is the fluidic essence of light, which is the life of the universe. The highest symbolism of this card is therefore fertility in its most exalted sense, and this is reflected in the attribution of this card to the sign Virgo. This is another aspect of the same quality. Virgo is an earthly sign, mutable earth, and is referred especially to corn, so that the background of the card is a field of wheat. Virgo represents the lowest, most receptive, most feminine form of earth, and forms the crust over Hades. Yet, not only is Virgo ruled by Mercury, but Mercury is exalted therein. It's Mercury in spades. Rules and is exalted in. Compare the 10 of discs. And the general doctrine that the climax of the descent into matter, right there, that's the climax of the descent into matter, is the signal for the redintegration by spirit. Redintegration, it's kind of an old-fashioned word for a return to a perfect first estate. In other words, jump-starting itself back at the top of the cycle. Compare the 10 of discs and the general doctrine that the climax of the descent into matter is the signal for the redintegration by spirit. The 10 of discs, and consequently, in another aspect, the princess of discs, is the climax of the descent of matter. And that's the signal for the redintegration by spirit. It is the formula of the princess, like Lon said, the mode of fulfillment of the great work. And the three cosmic players for the mode of fulfillment of the great work are the Earth, the Sun, and Mercury. You see where I'm going with this? This card represents the legend of Persephone, and herein is a dogma concealed within. Within, Mercury is a light which pervades all parts of the universe equally. One of his titles is Psychopampos, the guide of the soul through the lower regions. These symbols are indicated by his serpent wand, which is actually growing out of the abyss and is the spermatozoon developed as a poison and manifesting the fetus. Now, this is a special kind of poison. So, following him is Cerberus, the three-headed hound of hell, whom he has tamed with honey cakes. In this trump is shown the entire mystery of life in its most secret workings. Yod equals phallus, equals spermatozoon, equals hand, equals logos, equals virgin. There is perfect identity, not merely equivalence of the extremes, the manifestation and the method. Wow. Now, it's talk like that when you first read the Book of Thoth, hoping to find an elementary comment on reading tarot cards for your friends and neighbors, you go, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, I'm going to read you something now from this book, my Understanding Aleister Crowley's Thoth Tarot, that I have honored with that Princess of Discs, that very thing that we were talking about here, because she is, I tell you, the most magical card in the entire deck. And I'm going to discuss not the trumps, but I'm going to discuss the small card 10 of Discs. If I can find my place here. Now, I want to show you, this is from the Constance and Eyes Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. And you can see it's not a very imaginative version of it, but it says the allotment of planet to zodiac sign makes it Mercury in Virgo. Okay, Mercury in Virgo. Now look at the Crowley's 10 of Discs, and you see all these symbols of Mercury inside each one of these sephira. There's a, well, that's an Enochian bee, if you will, or Pa. Technically, that's not Mercury, but I think because it's an Enochian bee, Harris was comfortable saying, well, a bee's a bee. And then there's the bat, and there's Raphael, the Archangel, Mercurial. Then there's the eight-pointed Mercurial star there, and there's the Tetatrix there, Mercurial, and but right in the sphere of Mercury itself, number 8, isn't a mercurial symbol at all. It's a hexagram of the sun. Mercury, 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 Sun. Mercury, Mercury. What gives? Are you still with me? The 10 of Discs represents the climax of the descent into matter and is the signal for the redintegration by spirit. Crowley calls this card a hieroglyph of the cycle of regeneration. It is, after all, the last tarot card. It represents the lowest sphere, Malkuth, Earth, of the lowest Kabbalistic world, Asaya, the material plane. The 10s of all the other suits have somewhere to go. They simply cooperate with gravity and degenerate into the next lower suit. For the 10 of Discs, There is no place to descend, no place to grow, no place to go. The Ten of Discs is forced to do something no other small card is called upon to do. From its position at the bottom of the cosmos, it has to somehow form a link with the secret of creation, then actually reincarnate fresh and new at the very top of the tarot cycle. In other words, it must regenerate the world. That's some trick, and it's going to take the biggest trickster in the universe to help pull it off. But first, let's take a look at the card. Okay, Harris's interpretation is almost comically poignant. A tree of life made entirely of massive and heavy coins. Its Malkuth bulging at the bottom as if the forces and energies of all the tarot cards, all the Sephiroth and paths, all the Kabbalistic worlds have settled into it like the tired sediment of the entire universe. For lack of more genteel allusion, this card is a portrait of cosmic constipation. A magical laxative will... I'm a vulgar man. A magical laxative will need to be administered to prevent this stagnant wealth of energy, experience, and matter from putrefying and poisoning the body. Is there a doctor in the house? Yes. The best doctor in the universe, the God of physicians and magicians, the God who tradition informs us invented the tarot. Thoth, Hermes, Mercury. This is perfect. For a job like this, his credentials are amazing. First of all, Mercury the Magus. As Mercury the Magus, he knows his way around the supernal triad. Remember that the path of Mercury is above the abyss and joins Kether to Binah. As Hermes, he descended into the lowest regions of the dead and returned to Olympus with Persephone to regenerate the cycle of the seasons. If he could do that, jump-starting the Ten of Discs is going to be a piece of cake. His greatest credential is that he is Thoth, the inventor and sustainer of this entire tarot universe. As if to attract Mercury's attention so that he may perform this most necessary magic, Harris painted this card as a veritable invocation of Mercury. Just like I said, there's Mercury in absolutely every one of those Sephiroth, except the Sephiroth, the sphere of Mercury itself, which is implanted with the sun. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Harris painted this card as a veritable invocation of Mercury. All Sephiroth but one bear the word or image sacred to Mercury. Kether, we find the most common symbol of the planet Mercury. Hokmah, symbol of Mercury, is the Magus. Binah, the symbol of alchemical Mercury. Hesed, the letter Pa, the Enochian equivalent to the letter B. Harris associated this with the letter Bet, which is assigned to Mercury. Geburah, Hebrew letter Bet. Tifereth, the name Raphael, written in Hebrew, ruling angel of Mercury. Netzach, the eight-pointed star of Mercury. Hod, the hexagram within a hexagon, symbol of the sun. And then Yesod, the Pythagorean Tetatrix. Malkuth, the mercurial caduceus made from the three mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Why do all of these Sephiroth contain an image of Mercury except Hod, the sphere of Mercury itself? That's a good question. Crowley mentions it as being the key to this remarkable regenerative process. Here's what he says, quote, "These discs are inscribed with various symbols of mercurial character, except that the coin in the place of Hod, Mercury, on the Tree of Life, is marked with the cipher of the sun. This indicates the only possibility of issue from the impasse produced by the exhaustion of all the elemental forces." Or, as DuQuette might say, this indicates the only possible laxative to break up that log jam. This indicates the only possibility of issue from the impasse produced by the exhaustion of all the elemental forces. I take this to mean that at this stage of the game, Mercury needs inspiration and direction. And Crowley says it most succinctly, quote, "When wealth accumulates beyond a certain point, it must either become completely inert and cease to be wealth, or call in the aid of intelligence to use it wisely. In this way, Carnegie establishes a library, Rockefeller endows research, simply because there is nothing else to do." Unquote. By plugging the sun in the sphere of Mercury, in a tree of life otherwise loaded with Mercury, Harris is calling in the aid of intelligence to give this card the spiritual integrity necessary to regenerate the world and become the ultimate cosmic philanthropist. Happy first day of Virgo, everyone. And in just, I think, about 2 weeks, we'll go into the 10-day period itself up in around mid-September, September 12th through September 22nd. That is actually attributed to the 10 of discs. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.